Jasmine Crockett faces 8 interruptions. Her comeback ends. It in one sentence. Picture this. A Fox News titan, untouchable for decades, faces a moment so raw, so unexpected that her empire shakes on live TV. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an unbreakable spirit? You're about to witness a clash that rewrote the rules of political media in under 5 minutes. Buckle up, because this isn't just a debate, it's a demolition. Meet the powerhouse at the center, Laura Ingraham. She's the sharp-tongued queen of conservative TV, pulling in millions with her no-holds-barred style on The Ingraham Angle. For years, she's mastered the art of steamrolling guests, interrupting, twisting words, and leaving opponents scrambling. Her show's setup is pure strategy, harsh lights to unsettle, camera angles to dominate, and questions loaded like traps. Ingraham's built a career dismantling liberals, from presidents to rising stars, always staying one step ahead. But on this night, her confidence blinded her to the storm brewing. Now shift to the challenger, Jasmine Crockett, a fresh-faced Texas congresswoman in her early 40s. To Ingraham's team, she looked like easy prey, a progressive black woman with limited time in office, ripe for a ratings boost takedown. They painted her as a radical, ignoring her real edge. Crockett's no novice. She's a battle-tested defense attorney who thrived in hostile courtrooms, facing down aggressive prosecutors and unfair odds. Her quick rise in Congress came from fiery defenses of voting rights and bold committee takedowns. Conservative outlets tried to box her in, but she was ready, having studied Ingraham's playbook for weeks. The stage was set weeks prior, with tension crackling. Crockett's viral house moments had conservatives circling, seeing her as the perfect target for Ingraham's aggressive spotlight. Producers dreamed of a viral win, boo. Sting Fox's cred after recent scandals. As cameras rolled, Ingraham launched in, firing questions on democracy and borders, cutting Crockett off repeatedly, 8 times in minutes. The host smirked, dominating with her signature chaos, making the congresswoman seem cornered. But then the shift hit like lightning. After endless interruptions, Crockett fired back with calm fire, referencing Fox's massive $787 million payout for election falsehoods, flipping the script on credibility. Ingraham froze, her quick wit failing as silence filled the studio. Crockett pressed on, dismantling each point with facts, voter suppression tactics, real border solutions, economic myths, turning the host's weapons against her. The aftermath erupted online. Clips went viral, trends exploded, and donations flooded Crockett's way. Democrats celebrated a new fighter. Even some conservatives nodded in respect. This wasn't just a win, it exposed media games and sparked a shift in political battles. What lingers is the question. In a world of spin, who really wins when truth cuts through the noise? Crockett proved underdogs can redefine the fight. Share your thoughts below. What moment shocked you most? Picture this. A Fox News titan, untouchable for decades, faces a moment so raw, so unexpected, that her empire shakes on live TV. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an unbreakable spirit? You're about to witness a clash that rewrote the rules of political media in under 5 minutes. Buckle up, because this isn't just a debate, it's a demolition. Meet the powerhouse at the center, Laura Ingraham. She's the sharp-tongued queen of conservative TV, pulling in millions with her no-holds-barred style on The Ingraham Angle. For years, she's mastered the art of steamrolling guests, interrupting, twisting words, and leaving opponents scrambling. Her show's setup is pure strategy, harsh lights to unsettle, camera angles to dominate, and questions loaded like traps. Ingraham's built a career dismantling liberals, from presidents to rising stars, always staying one step ahead. But on this night, her confidence blinded her to the storm brewing. Now shift to the challenger, Jasmine Crockett, a fresh-faced Texas congresswoman in her early 40s. To Ingraham's team, she looked like easy prey, a progressive black woman with limited time in office, ripe for a ratings boost takedown. They painted her as a radical, ignoring her real edge. Crockett's no novice. She's a battle-tested defense attorney who thrived in hostile courtrooms, facing down aggressive prosecutors and unfair odds. Her quick rise in Congress came from fiery defenses of voting rights and bold committee takedowns. Conservative outlets tried to box her in, but she was ready, having studied Ingraham's playbook for weeks. The stage was set weeks prior, with tension crackling. Crockett's viral house moments had conservatives circling, seeing her as the perfect target for Ingraham's aggressive spotlight. Producers dreamed of a viral win, boosting Fox's cred after recent scandals. As cameras rolled, Ingraham launched in, firing questions on democracy and borders, cutting Crockett off repeatedly, 8 times in minutes. The host smirked, dominating with her signature chaos, making the Congresswoman seem cornered. But then, the shift hit like lightning. After endless interruptions, Crockett fired back with calm fire, referencing Fox's massive $787 million payout for electi. On falsehoods, flipping the script on credibility. Ingraham froze, her quick wit failing as silence filled the studio. Crockett pressed on, dismantling each point with facts. Voter suppression tactics, real border solutions, economic myths, turning the host's weapons against her. The aftermath erupted online. Clips went viral, trends exploded, and donations flooded Crockett's way. Democrats celebrated a new fighter. Even some conservatives nodded in respect. This wasn't just a win, it exposed media games and sparked a shift in political battles. What lingers is the question, in a world of spin, who really wins when truth cuts through the noise? Crockett proved underdogs can redefine the fight. Share your thoughts below. What moment shocked you most? Jasmine Crockett steps into the spotlight not as a media darling, but as the ultimate underdog, a 42-year-old congresswoman from Texas who Ingraham's team pegged as an easy mark. They saw her youth, her progressive stance, and her brief time in office as weaknesses, perfect for a prime-time dismantling. After all, with less than 2 years under her belt, how could this newcomer withstand the Fox News gauntlet? But that's where they slipped up, dismissing her as just another radical leftist to be steamrolled for ratings. What they didn't count on was the fire beneath her composed exterior, a strength forged in battles far tougher than any TV studio. Born and raised in Texas, Crockett embodies the grit of someone who's fought her way up from the ground. She worked through college and law school, emerging as a fierce criminal defense attorney in Dallas, where she spent years defending clients against a system stacked against them. Imagine facing down aggressive prosecutors day in and day out, loaded questions, constant interruptions, biased judges trying to corner you into submission. Crockett didn't just survive those courtroom wars. She thrived, learning to stay calm under fire and deliver counterpunches that turned the tide. It's that hidden edge, honed in real legal trenches, that made her far more dangerous than Ingraham's producers ever imagined. They thought they'd booked a novice. They'd actually invited a warrior. Her political ascent has been nothing short of meteoric, catching even Washington insiders off guard. Elected to Congress in 2022, Crockett burst onto the scene by toppling established players who underestimated her resolve. She represents a district rich with diverse voices, immigrants, working families, and communities often overlooked in the power games of D.C. Quickly, she made waves with her unapologetic style, fiery speeches defending voting rights, sharp interrogations in committee hearings that left opponents reeling. Unlike traditional politicians who tiptoe around controversy, Crockett dives in, embracing conflict when it means standing up for justice. Conservative media tried to paint her as extreme, but her rapid rise showed a new breed of Democrat, one unafraid to match aggression with substance. What really sets Crockett apart is her preparation, a trait straight from her attorney days. Before stepping into Ingraham's arena, she didn't wing it, she studied. Hours of reviewing past shows, spotting patterns in the host's interruptions, practicing responses with her team. She understood his wasn't about polite debate. It's modern media warfare, where viral moments win the day. As a black woman in progressive politics, she's no stranger to being underestimated, but she flips that narrative, using it as fuel. Ingraham's crew saw vulnerability. Crockett saw opportunity, ready to expose the cracks in their overconfident setup. This clash wasn't random, it was a powder keg waiting to ignite. With Crockett's background whispering of untapped power, the stage was set for an upset no one saw coming. But could her courtroom savvy really crack the Queen's armor? Hold on, because the real fireworks are just beginning. The build-up to this explosive showdown didn't happen overnight. It simmered for weeks, like a storm gathering force on the horizon. Jasmine Crockett had been making waves in Congress, her passionate defenses of voting rights and razor-sharp takedowns in committee hearings turning heads across the political spectrum. Videos of her House floor speeches went viral, showcasing a fresh voice unafraid to call out injustice with unfiltered energy. But as her profile rose, so did the scrutiny from the right. Conservative outlets zeroed in, framing her as the epitome of everything wrong with the radical left, a young, outspoken black woman pushing progressive agendas they claimed threatened American values. Headlines screamed warnings. Crockett's extreme views on borders could destroy Texas, or Democrat firebrand attacks democracy under guise of reform. It was a coordinated paint job designed to isolate her as an easy target in the culture wars. Fox News, still smarting from its own credibility hits like the massive Dominion settlement, saw Crockett as low-hanging fruit. Producers whispered about her in strategy meetings, labeling her an inexperienced upstart who'd crumble under real pressure. They amplified the narrative, running segments that clipped her quotes out of context to make her sound unhinged. Guest commentators piled on, dismissing her as another woke warrior more interested in grandstanding than governing. This wasn't subtle. It was a full-court press to delegitimize her before she could build more momentum. Social media echoed the attacks, with right-wing influencers sharing memes and threads painting Crockett as a threat to traditional America. The goal? Soften her up for a public dismantling, boosting viewership in the process. Enter Laura Ingraham, perched at the top of this media machine, exuding total confidence. With over 1,500 shows under her belt, she'd interviewed heavyweights, presidents, senators, even Supreme Court justices, and emerged victorious every time. Her team specifically handpicked Crockett, betting on a mismatch that would deliver ratings gold. They envisioned Ingraham's signature style overwhelming the Congresswoman, rapid interruptions, gotcha questions, and that patronizing smirk to seal the deal. Internal memos later revealed the excitement. Producers called it a surefire win, a chance to remind viewers why Fox reigned supreme in conservative circles. Ingraham herself dove into prep with her usual intensity, poring over Crockett's voting record and past statements, convinced she'd expose her as out of touch. "This one's going to be fun," she reportedly told aides, seeing it as a slam dunk to rebound from the network's recent scandals and reassert dominance. But Crockett wasn't oblivious. Whispers from her camp suggest she'd been tracking the smears, using them as fuel. As a former attorney, she knew how to anticipate attacks, quietly preparing countermeasures while the conservative echo chamber grew louder. The interview date loomed, tension crackling like electricity. Ingraham's crew rolled out the red carpet for what they thought was a slaughter, unaware they were inviting a hurricane. Would the underdog flip the script? The cameras were about to reveal all. Stay tuned, because the real chaos is just igniting. The cameras rolled, the dramatic Fox News theme fading as Laura Ingraham leaned into her microphone, her signature edge sharp as ever. "Joining me now is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas," she announced, voice dripping with skepticism. The split screen showed Crockett in her congressional office, poised in a navy blazer, expression alert but steady. Ingraham wasted no time launching her first salvo. "Congresswoman, your party keeps talking about democracy being under threat, but aren't you the real threat with your support for packing the Supreme Court?" It was classic Ingraham, a loaded question meant to corner from the start. Crockett leaned forward slightly, composure intact, starting her response. "Laura, what threatens democracy is when—" But Ingraham cut in like a blade, raising her hand to the camera. Hold on. Interruption number 1. Her tone was patronizing, a smirk playing on her lips as she pivoted. "Before you give me talking points, let's talk facts. Your voting record shows you've opposed every election security measure. How is that protecting democracy?" Crockett's jaw tightened just a fraction, the pressure building, but she held her ground, voice even. "If you'd let me finish, I was about to explain that voter suppression is what really—" "I'm sorry, but that's just not true," Ingraham fired back, shaking her head with mock disappointment. Interruption number 2. She pressed on, twisting the narrative. "Those bills require basic ID. Are you saying black voters can't get IDs? That sounds pretty racist to me." Crockett's eyes narrowed subtly, the undercurrent of frustration evident, yet she remained remarkably composed, pushing forward. "What's racist is assuming expensive documentation doesn't keep working people from—" Texas, Ingraham waved dismissively, cutting in for the third time, redirecting to her next attack. "Let's talk about the border crisis in your state. Why do you hate border security?" The barrage continued, Ingraham's aggressive style in full swing, each interruption a calculated move to disrupt and dominate. Crockett, under mounting pressure, took a measured breath, her legal training kicking in to keep her steady. I don't hate border security. I oppose wasting money on ineffective root causes. Ingram laughed, interrupting again. Number 4, her confidence swelling. She rattled off votes against walls and funding, painting Crockett as evasive. The Congresswoman's posture stiffened, hints of strain showing in her tightened grip, but she persisted. Laura, if you're actually interested in my positions rather than sound bites— Oh, I'm very interested, Ingram interjected with feigned sincerity, leaning forward. Interruption 5. She hammered on taxpayer funds for immigrants versus veterans, her voice rising in righteous indignation. Crockett tried again, composure fraying at the edges. The false choice you're presenting— False choice? Ingram's volume spiked, cutting off number 6. The host was in her element, chaos her ally, as she tied it to inflation and economic pain. 7 interruptions now, then 8, as Ingram sneered at Crockett's economic data at tempt. Inflation is killing families under your policies. The studio tension was palpable, Ingram smirking like she'd already won, while Crockett, initially unflappable, now showed subtle signs of the strain. A deeper breath, a sharper gaze. 8 cuts in minutes, each one chipping away. But beneath that pressure, something was shifting. Was the underdog about to snap back? The air crackled with anticipation. Hold tight, because the tide is turning. 8 interruptions in. The air in the Fox News studio hung thick with tension, like the calm before a storm's fury. Laura Ingraham leaned back, her smirk signaling victory, confident she'd battered Jasmine Crockett into submission with her relentless barrage. The Congresswoman had endured the chaos, loaded questions on borders, voting, inflation, her responses sliced apart mid-sentence each time. Viewers at home could sense the pressure mounting, Crockett's initial calm now edged with a quiet intensity, her hands clasped tightly, eyes locked on the camera. Ingraham, reveling in her dominance, pressed on, but something in Crockett's demeanor had shifted. No longer defensive, she appeared almost amused, like a lawyer spotting the perfect opening in a grueling cross-examination. "Are you finished?" Crockett asked softly, her voice piercing the host's momentum like a pin to a balloon. Ingram faltered for a split second, thrown off balance. "I'm waiting for you to answer any of my questions," she retorted, trying to reclaim control. But Crockett didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned in, her tone steady and laced with steel, delivering the 9th sentence that would shatter everything. "Miss Ingraham, your own network had to pay $787 million for lying about elections. Maybe you should worry about your credibility before questioning mine." Boom! The words landed like a precision strike, flipping the entire script in an instant. No more interruptions, no more deflections, just a raw, factual gut punch referencing Fox News' massive Dominion voting system settlement, where the network admitted to broadcasting falsehoods about the 2020 election to keep viewers hooked. The impact was electric, rippling through the studio and beyond. Ingram's confident facade cracked wide open. Her smile froze into a mask of shock, mouth slightly agape, as if the air had been sucked from the room. For a woman who'd built her empire on quick-witted comebacks and unyielding poise, the silence that followed was deafening, a void stretching seconds into eternity. Her face paled, knuckles whitening as she gripped her desk, the color draining like sand through an hourglass. In the control room, producers froze, one later confessing it was like watching a freight train derail in slow motion. Camera operators instinctively zoomed in, capturing every micro-expression, the widened eyes, the subtle flinch, the desperate glance toward her teleprompter for salvation that never came. This wasn't just quiet. It was a thunderous hush, exposing the fragility beneath her armored persona. Millions watching felt the shift, the power dynamic inverting before their eyes. Crockett sat composed, almost regal, while Ingram stammered incoherently. "That's not—" her voice trailing into nothingness. The reference to internal texts from the lawsuit, where Fox insiders knew they were peddling untruths, amplified the blow, turning Ingram's aggression into hypocrisy on full display. What had been a one-sided assault became Crockett's arena, her words echoing as a masterstroke that left the host reeling. The studio audience held its breath, the split screen telling the tale, one woman ascendant, the other diminished. But Crockett wasn't stopping there. With the silence broken, she pressed her advantage, ready to dismantle every point with forensic precision. How would Ingram recover from this body blow? Hang on, because the real dismantling is just unfolding. With the silence hanging like a verdict in a tense courtroom, Jasmine Crockett seized the moment, her voice gaining authority as she transformed from defendant to prosecutor. Ingraham's stunned pause gave her the opening she'd been waiting for, and she didn't waste it. Leaning into the camera with the poise of someone who'd dismantled hostile witnesses countless times, Crockett continued, "You've interrupted me 8 times in the last 5 minutes. You've asked about voter ID, border security, spending, and inflation, but you haven't mentioned your network's nearly billion-dollar payout for spreading election falsehoods or the texts showing you knew it was all fabricated." Her words were deliberate, each one backed by the Dominion lawsuit's damning details, flipping Ingraham's credibility attacks right back at her. The host gripped her desk tighter, her usual rapid-fire retorts reduced to a weak stammer. "That settlement doesn't change the fact that your policies—" "Are you going to interrupt me again?" Crockett interjected firmly, turning Ingraham's own tactic against her with flawless timing. It was a masterstroke, her courtroom precision on full display, calm, confident, and unyielding. "Because I'm not done answering your questions." The role reversal was complete. The queen of interruptions was now the one being silenced. Crockett pressed on methodically, addressing each point like a closing argument, her confidence radiating through the screen. "You asked about voter ID. Here's the truth. These laws hit elderly voters, students, and working families hardest, demanding time off for costly documents. In Texas, concealed carry permits count as ID, but student cards don't. That's not security. It's deliberate suppression, designed to keep certain voices quiet." Facts flowed seamlessly, her legal training evident in the structured takedown, leaving no room for evasion. Ingraham tried to recover, mumbling about agreement on basics, but Crockett shut it down. "I'm not finished." Her voice carried the weight of years facing down aggressive opponents in Dallas courts, where she'd learned to expose weaknesses without raising her tone. Shifting to the border, she continued, "I represent communities with deep immigrant ties. Real security means comprehensive reform, tackling migration's root causes like violence and poverty, not just walls that make desperate journeys deadlier. Your network pushes ineffective fixes while ignoring humane solutions." Each response was a counterpunch, using Ingraham's emotional triggers against her, highlighting hypocrisy with data-backed clarity. The host's face flushed, her attempts to pivot falling flat as Crockett's precision kept the narrative locked in her grip. On spending and inflation, Crockett delivered the final blows. The Inflation Reduction Act 1 backed is set to cut the deficit by $90 billion, creating jobs across Texas. Meanwhile, the corporate tax cuts your side championed added trillions to the debt. She leaned in, eyes steady. "You profit from division, making millions while communities like mine suffer the fallout. Before questioning my credibility, examine yours, built on silencing voices and peddling division." Ingraham looked diminished, her desk a barrier she could no longer hide behind. Crockett's confidence had turned the interview into a rout, exposing the emptiness of aggressive media tactics. The studio felt smaller, the power shifted irrevocably, but the real shockwaves were just starting to spread. How would this viral demolition reshape everything? Keep watching. The fallout is about to explode. As the commercial break hit, the Fox News studio plunged into a stunned hush, but the real chaos was just igniting. Laura Ingraham, usually the picture of unshakable poise, had unraveled before millions. Her face, flushed and frozen, betrayed a rare vulnerability, knuckles white on her desk, eyes darting as if searching for an escape hatch. Producers later whispered it was unprecedented. One director called it watching a titan crumble. Ingraham stammered through the fade to ads, her signature confidence evaporated, leaving her looking small and exposed. This wasn't just a bad segment, it was a public fracture, her aggressive style boomeranging in spectacular fashion. Backstage, her team scrambled, fielding furious calls from executives who couldn't believe their star had been so thoroughly outplayed. But the true explosion happened online, where the clip spread like wildfire in dry grass. Within minutes, Jasmine Crockett Destroys rocketed to Twitter's top trend, amassing 50,000 retweets in the first hour alone. TikTok erupted with remixes, users syncing Ingraham's interruptions to dramatic music, then Crockett's killer line dropping like a mic. One compilation, editing all 8 cutoffs into her comeback, clocked 2.3 million views in 6 hours. Instagram stories flooded with screenshots of Ingraham's deer-in-headlights stare, while YouTube reaction channels dissected every second, pushing the original footage to over 1 million plays overnight. The virality was staggering. ActBlue reported a 400% donation spike for Crockett, pulling in $200,000 from small donors across 50 states in just 12 hours. It wasn't contained to one platform. Facebook groups shared memes, Reddit threads analyzed the power shift, and even non-political influencers weighed in, turning it into a cultural phenomenon. Progressive voices erupted in triumph, hailing Crockett as a beacon for the resistance. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "This is how it's done. Preparation, facts, and courage." Her post garnering hundreds of thousands of likes. Hakeem Jeffries called personally, praising her as the blueprint for handling hostile media. Young activists like those at Howard University posted viral videos declaring, "Finally a Democrat who fights back without apology." Maxine Waters added, "The ancestors are smiling. She showed them we're done with disrespect." Fundraising PACs saw record hauls, with donors noting, "This is real resistance." Even conservative circles couldn't ignore the spectacle. Some grudgingly respected the combat. A verified account with 200,000 followers admitted, "Disagree with her politics, but Crockett outclassed Ingraham, got to respect the skill." Others tried damage cons. Troll like Right Side News dismissing it as deflection, but the consensus leaked through. Ingraham got outmaneuvered. Honest conservative commentators conceded, "She handled it like a pro. We got schooled tonight." The fallout rippled into TV bookings. CNN and MSNBC clamored for Crockett, while late-night shows prepped skits on Ingraham's stunned silence. Political science classes added it to syllabi, calling it a masterclass in media warfare. For Fox, still scarred by the Dominion hit, it was a credibility gut punch. Advertisers whispering concerns as viewers questioned the network's invincibility. Yet this moment transcended one night, hinting at a seismic shift in how power plays out on air. What broader waves would it send through Washington? Stay with us. The bigger picture is unfolding. This viral clash didn't just end with a commercial break. It ignited an earthquake in the world of political media, reshaping how we view power, truth, and confrontation on air. What started as a routine Fox News segment evolved into a landmark event, exposing the vulnerabilities in an era where aggressive hosting meets unyielding pushback. Political analysts now point to it as a turning point, a case study in how one exchange can dismantle long-held narratives. Media professors at places like Georgetown are dissecting it in classes, arguing it signals the decline of interruption-driven interviews in favor of substantive, fact-based combat. In a landscape dominated by sound bites and spin, Crockett's approach, calm, prepared, and incisive, highlighted a new blueprint for engagement, where guests aren't just participants, but potential game changers. This moment forced networks to rethink their tactics, with some insiders whispering that hosts like Ingraham might need to adapt or risk more public humiliations. It's not just about winning arguments anymore. It's about who controls the conversation when the facade cracks. At the heart of this shift is Jasmine Crockett's meteoric ascent as a Democratic star, transforming her from a congressional newcomer into a national force overnight. Young voters, especially from progressive circles, now see her as their champion, a Black woman who embodies resilience and refuses to be sidelined. Her performance resonated deeply, inspiring a wave of activism among college students and young Democrats frustrated with passive politics. Groups like the Young Democrats at Howard University hailed it as our generation's style, sparking campus discussions and even curriculum changes. Democratic leaders took note, inviting her to strategy sessions with figures like Chuck Schumer, who saw her as the key to energizing the base. Fundraising surged, not just in dollars, but in endorsements from power players like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Maxine Waters, positioning Crockett for bigger roles, perhaps even higher office. She's become a symbol of the party's evolving edge, proving that diversity and boldness can win in hostile arenas, drawing in demographics long alienated by tepid responses to right-wing aggression. Meanwhile, perceptions of Fox News' dominance took a brutal hit, cracking the network's aura of invincibility. Still recovering from the $787 million Dominion settlement, this debacle amplified doubts about their credibility, with advertisers growing wary and viewers questioning the sustainability of their combative style. Conservative commentators admitted the loss, some calling it a wake-up call for media giants who rely on bullying tactics. The viral backlash, millions of views mocking Ingraham's silence, painted Fox as out of touch, a relic in an age where audiences demand authenticity over theatrics. It hinted at eroding trust, with internal reports suggesting a dip in ratings as progressive voices gained traction elsewhere. Ultimately, the confrontation hinted at a profound shift in power dynamics, from old guard media titans to agile, diverse challengers ready to flip the script. No longer can hosts assume control. The underdogs are rising, armed with facts and fearlessness. It's a reminder that in today's fractured arena, one bold voice can redefine the rules. But what does this mean for the future of political discourse? Reflect on that as we wrap up. The real legacy is just beginning to unfold. So what does this epic clash really teach us? In a single blistering moment on live TV, Jasmine Crockett didn't just defend her ground, she redefined the battlefield. One viral sentence, sharp as a blade, turned Laura Ingraham from untouchable media monarch into a symbol of exposed fragility. Careers pivoted in seconds. Crockett skyrocketed from congressional newcomer to Democratic icon, her name now synonymous with fearless resistance, inspiring a generation weary of polite defeats. Ingraham, meanwhile, faced a rare dent in her armor, her style questioned as outdated in an era craving authenticity over aggression. It's a stark reminder that in our hyper-connected world, narratives aren't etched in stone. They're fluid, reshaped by unexpected sparks that ignite millions. One exchange, amplified across screens, can topple empires or launch legends, proving media power isn't absolute. It's vulnerable to the right counterpunch. Think deeper. Who truly steers the story in today's chaotic political arena? Is it the hosts behind gleaming desks, scripting the drama, or the voices like Crockett's, armed with facts and grit, flipping the script when least expected? In a landscape flooded with spin and echo chambers, moments like this challenge us to question the gatekeepers. Networks chasing ratings, algorithms feeding division. They highlight how everyday viewers, sharing clips and sparking trends, hold real sway, turning isolated incidents into cultural shifts. Crockett's triumph isn't just her win, it's a signal that diverse, prepared challengers can disrupt the status quo, forcing us to ask if the old guards are adapting or fading. As we close this tale of underdog glory, reflect on that power dynamic. Has a viral moment ever changed how you see politics or media? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What shocked you most about this showdown, and where are you watching from? Your insights keep the conversation alive. If this breakdown hooked you, smash that like button and subscribe for more unfiltered dives into political earthquakes. Who knows what clash we'll unpack next? Until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, in the game of narratives, anyone can rewrite the rules.